Okay, again, the video is called "Is Veganism Really the Answer?" from the channel Our Changing Climate on YouTube. Let's go into it.
Along a stretch of Highway 60 in the Texas Panhandle lies this small city, the city of Hereford. A city of over 15,000 people equipped with a golf course, a movie theater, a few restaurants, and when the wind blows a certain direction, the smell of manure. Because the people of Hereford are outnumbered by cows by a factor of 40 to 1. Hereford
15K times 40, 30K, 60K, 600,000 cows? That's pretty crazy.
and its surrounding landscapes are home to these massive animal feedlots, where cattle is fattened up during their last stages of life. This is the origin of that grocery store steak or that restaurant ground beef, and it's a far cry from the pastoral roots of animal agriculture. So how then did we get from this to this? The answer to that question is crucial, because the shape of animal agriculture has massive ramifications around the world. It affects our climate, our water, our livelihoods, and the very food we put on our plate. Today, we dive headfirst into the muddy tracks of the meat industry in order to uncover exactly how much it's driving climate change. We'll discover why the city of Hereford raises cows in conditions like this, whether veganism makes sense as a solution, and why this man might give us a glimpse into a future with less meat. This video
Okay. Sounds like a promising video for 26 minutes.
is better on Nebula. Use the link in the description below to support Our Changing Climate directly by signing up for Nebula. There you can watch this video ad-free and also watch over 25 OCC videos that I haven't released on YouTube, including my most recent bonus video diving into whether grass-fed beef is actually good for the environment. Meat, the flesh of another animal made into food. The path of a steak or a slab of bacon from field to fork is one mired in exploitation and environmental harm. In part, this is because today's meat industry epitomizes capitalist commodification and exploitation in the name of accumulating profits. The process of meat production squeezes both animals and humans in order to assure prices stay low and profits stay high. In a 2002 interview with PBS Frontline, the CEO of the biggest meat lobbying firm, Patrick Boyle, admits just that. He
Of course, people aren't just vegan for the environment, just a side effect for most. I think it's like the great picture, right? It's like environment, saving animals most for most people being the number one reason. Health being a reason. And the last reason being, of course, being able to feed Amazon on the world. Hey mate, welcome.
Explains that the reason they're able to keep the price of beef so low is that they've been continuously squeezing costs out of the process. This is really a euphemism for consolidation, mechanization, and exploitation. Three cornerstones of capitalist production. Because under capitalism, corporations are constantly jostling to edge out other competitors. And to
They're basically edge maxing, guys.
get that edge, they buy up smaller companies for more share of the market, invest in new technology to lower the cost of production, and exploit workers through low wages and lax workplace safety. And we're seeing all of this play out on an international scale today with the meat industry. Since the 1970s, meat production has skyrocketed globally, with the number of
1961. The amount of chickens is crazy. Look, this is 30 billion. It's like 10% of that, so it was like 3 billion. So, oh my god. What? That's ridiculous. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, times 2.5 or like 2 times 2 times 2.5 2 times 3. But this is, the chicken increase is the one that is the craziest to me. The world population is bigger these days. Not nearly as much. Like world population, 1961, 3 billion. Actually that increased by quite a lot. So we doubled. We doubled our world population, but we took chickens times what, 20, 25 or something?
Pigs slaughtered per year reaching 1.4 billion and chickens slaughtered reaching 73 billion, which means that we slaughter roughly 191 million chickens every
191 million chickens per day, guys. That's 2.5 as many people as live in Germany.
single day to satisfy our craving for meat. And aiding that rise of meat production is the concentration of animal processing into the hands of just a few big companies. In the US specifically, 4 corporations now own 85% of the meatpacking business. In the case of cows, this means that after
85%.
calves have been raised on pasture and then sold,
But it's also so funny because whenever the taxes and stuff are raised, from these regards, people always talk about the poor small farmers that are gonna suffer so bad when they're like, what, 1% of this at best? Yeah, Kimmy, innocent animals that had no choice in the matter,
to
exactly.
feedlots to quickly fatten them for slaughter, those 4 corporations are pretty much the only ones buying fully mature animals. They are the ones snatching up and slaughtering chickens, pigs, and cows to then package them up and sell them in grocery stores. So Tyson, JBS, National Beef Packing, and Cargill have immense control over not only the prices of meat, but how production is run. They are the bottleneck through which all meat must filter. And we saw this immense power at work during the pandemic.
The cost of many of those meats we throw on the grill is spiking.
Meat prices are now up as much as 25%.
Some of the highest prices they've ever seen for their meat product.
According to a White House report,
Guys, just eat meat of your significant other. It's gonna be more fun, and no animal has to suffer.
prices of beef shot up since 2019, while the value of cattle declined during the same period.
Oh, interesting, huh? So cattle went down, or mostly stayed the same for this argument, I guess. But the beef rise, and they just make some random excuse as to why it got more expensive. Not that it matters, not that it's a justification to slaughter animals, but still important to keep in mind that this is basically just a choice from these companies to make it more expensive because they wanna profit max.
In other words, meat packers were forcing ranchers and feedlots to sell their cows for lower rates and then turned around and sold their processed meat for higher prices in grocery stores. Essentially, their consolidated power allowed them to get the most lucrative prices. Indeed, the profit margin of the big meat processors increased by 300% during the pandemic.
Those 300% profit margin increase, like, really worth it to take it from the poor, huh?
But this consolidation is nothing new. Back in the early 20th century, there were 5 meat packers buying up and slaughtering meat. They were doing the exact same thing we're witnessing today, using their outsized share of the animal market to influence pricing and exploit workers and ranchers in order to make the most profit. But in 1921, the US government passed a law essentially breaking up this monopoly, and the Big Five's percentage of market control plummeted to around 25%. That is until free market hawk Ronald Reagan
Of course, it was Ronald fucking Reagan.
took power in the 1980s, and neoliberal policy sunk.
I know those kinds of executors as money-hungry lizards. It's not just them, it's everyone. All of these company owners. There's no successful business that does not have bad molds. Keep that in mind.
Its teeth into the American legal system. With less antitrust oversight, meatpacking companies merged and bought up other companies over the next 40 years, slowly concentrating power into the 4 meat processing behemoths we live under today. As journalist Claire Kellaway notes in an interview,
It's so crazy. How was this even, like, how did people even agree with this? Like, that's the crazy part to me. Why would anyone be like, this seems like a good thing?
with Vox,
This drive to become bigger and to cut costs, pushing
That guy, I swear he's in every video, yeah, because he made some of the worst US economic decisions, or political decisions overall, that the US still lives under today.
more destructive forms of livestock production. So the rise of more concentrated animal farms, which have huge externalized costs on the environment.
this kind of monopoly power is the logical conclusion of a capitalist system. Consolidation means feedlots have to increase in size to cater to the meatpackers' scale. Ranchers have to accept the prices set by the Big Four, and workers within meatpackers
Yep, because if they don't accept the prices of the Big Four, they don't have alternatives to sell it to. Because there's only those four or really small companies, so yep, no choices.
production must shoulder the conditions and wages these conglomerates set, all because there are few other options. This monopoly power allows corporations to, as Patrick Boyle said, squeeze every last drop of profit out of the meat production process, which means that consolidation leads to increased exploitation. Whether that's exploitative wage systems, like in the case of chicken farmers, who have only received an increase of 2.5 cents per pound of poultry since 1988, despite the wholesale price of chicken rising by 17.4 cents per pound during the same period. Or exploitative conditions within slaughterhouses and meatpacking facilities run by the likes of Tyson and
Oh my God.
JBS. Their conditions are dismal.
This is crazy. Like, imagine your company keeps making more and more on the back of their workers, and the workers do not get increased pay even though the cost of living kept raising over all these years. And that's not even waging in the veganism aspect that we'll probably talk about later in this video.
Dolor allí en ningún ser humano, no hay humanidad, no hay nada.
Not only for animals, but also for those that must sell their labor to live.
Over 100 miners have been working overnight shifts and employed to clean slaughterhouses in dangerous conditions across the Midwest.
They fucking paid children to clean slaughterhouses in bad conditions? Wow. Besides the fact that they're being paid bad and potential danger to their health, it's also traumatizing to clear all that blood and shit. Oh my God,
According
what?
to data from the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, meat plant workers suffer an average of 2 amputations every single
2 amputations? What? Wait.
Across the Midwest.
According to data from the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, meat plant workers suffer an average of 2 amputations every single week. Whether
What? That's fucking crazy. Wait. 2 amputations every single week. That means 2 people, yes, of course, over the entire country, need an amputation because they, like, cut themselves really fucking badly? Oh my God, that's so awful. Oh my God. Just imagine yourself having to lose an arm for your job that you paid shitty in. You're never gonna get that arm back, even if you get, like, paid sick leave and whatnot. You will never be like as you were before. Not saying that people that did lose an arm or are in other forms disabled don't have a good life, but if a person has a vast big change in their life for such a shitty reason, that's just awful. What?
that's limbs sucked into cubing machines or digits severed by a saw, both animals and humans are forced to shed blood and flesh to put that slab of meat onto the dinner table. But that's just for amputations. The rate of serious injuries in meat processing plants is a little over
4
4
serious
per
injuries
week.
every
And yet the
week.
median hourly wage for such hazardous work
16.94, yeah, fucking
is
great.
$16.94. A pittance when compared to the profits the big 4 meat packers are pulling in. Despite this rampant worker exploitation, not to mention the exploitation of billions of animals, this system remains invisible to the consumer. Capitalism has deftly removed us consumers from any glimpse.
Also, I want a quick reminder for people living in Germany. We had a recent death in the last 4 years, a scandal that is very similar to this called the Tanya scandal, which is also in meat industry. They basically had illegal workers there, paid minimum wage, also people that got lots of damage, stuff like that. It was really an awful situation, and they were just profit maxing, and it's absolute disgusting. So, just because this is the US, don't think this is not happening in your own country, because it most likely is also happening in a similar or the exact same way in your own country. Just took Germany as example because I'm from Germany.
Of the production process. The mechanization of the animal production process, whether through dairy pump machines or meat processing assembly lines, has meant that fewer and fewer people are coming into contact with the animals we kill to live. We are alienated from the very things we put in our mouth. As a result, it's hard to care about the impact of a feedlot on the environment or the workers within a slaughterhouse when you are halfway across the
We should just do the same thread as we did with cigarettes in Germany. I don't know if you guys do that in the US, but as you buy cigarettes in Germany, there's like pictures on there. Wait, let me show you guys. There's like pictures on there of like rotten, like lung operations and stuff like that, or like basically people dying of whatever happens when you use cigarettes. So just put on pictures of the animals, sad animals, slaughtered animals on the meat. Maybe that will help. Seems like a fair treatment. I hate it so much I had to sell them. I had to see those pictures all the time. Make me hate smoking more than I do already too. Yeah, but I still think it's a good policy.
world eating something that looks nothing like an animal. Capitalism has turned meat into a commodity to be bought and sold. Its value has been transformed from one of taste and quality to one of profit and quantity. And this drive to consolidate, exploit, and mechanize has had a catastrophic toll on the environment around us.
Yep. That's very important. Also, guys, don't be mistaken. Even if you think, yes, I'm only buying bio meat or whatever, it's like barely any better there. So don't lie to yourself on these facts.
Death lies where the Mississippi River meets the sea. There in the Gulf of Mexico is one of the biggest hypoxic dead zones in the world. A strip of ocean where oxygen levels are so low that most sea life is unable to live. And this is all thanks to agriculture, most prominently animal agriculture.
Organic, yes, thank you. Sorry. Idiot German doesn't know the English words.
If we travel back up the Mississippi for a moment, we'll witness thousands upon thousands of farms whose excess chemical fertilizers, nutrients, and manure are draining into waterways. Waterways that trickle down and eventually flood into the Gulf of Mexico, where those nutrients from feedlots and farms concentrate into a large scar gouged out of the ocean. These nutrients, like nitrogen and phosphorus, are the stuff of life for algae. But when an excessive amount of animal manure and fertilizer rich with those nutrients builds up in waterways, things get bad quickly. Algae explode in numbers, sink to the bottom, decompose, and in the process consume the water's oxygen supply. The absence of oxygen is what's causing that Gulf of Mexico dead zone. But unfortunately, that strip of unlivable water is not unique. There are 400
Oh my god, look at this. US coast. Almost entirely doomed to East Coast. The Northwest Coast too. Germany. We have the fucking North Coast. We have entirety of Denmark. Filled with dead zones. The fucking Eastern Sea. Eastern North Sea. South of Sweden. The fucking Mediterranean Sea. The Black Sea. We don't even see Korea, Japan, and Asia on here on this graphic right
15
now.
dead zones across the world that are fed by the massive
Wow, that's crazy. Hey Herbalink, welcome.
nutrient load from corn and soybean farms for animal feed and animal feedlots themselves. But these dead zones are just one part of a much larger picture of the meat industry's impact on our lives and environment. While there are many ethical and nutritional concerns surrounding meat, today we're only going to focus on animal agriculture's outsized impact on the environment, the most prominent of which is climate change. If we head back to the city of Hereford in Texas, we can see the meat industry's emissions crisis in full swing. There, where roughly 1 million cows are stuffed full of corn and soybeans, clouds of methane hang heavy in
This looks so disgusting. What the fuck? This looks awful.
the air. Not only does the very particulate matter from manure get kicked up into the air, poisoning the surrounding town, but cows, especially cows forced to gain weight very quickly to eke out even more profit in industrial feedlots, create a lot of methane gas. While methane doesn't linger in the atmosphere as long as carbon dioxide does, it is 25 times more effective in trapping heat. So while it almost seems ridiculous, cow farts are a substantial actor in driving climate change. Indeed,
Yeah, but it only seems ridiculous if you don't think about the fact that there's so many fucking cows, like oh my god.
the animal industry is responsible for 16.5% of all annual global greenhouse gas emissions.
16.5% just the animal industry, by the way. 16.5%. So yes, you switching to an electric car is not gonna make a difference if you keep eating meat.
With beef leading the charge. Capitalism has turned animals into machines, and like every other extraction industry, it doesn't consider the emissions and harm those machines generate. If we dig down into the specifics of meat, however, emissions associated with animal farming are not unilaterally catastrophic. There is a yawning gap between the greenhouse gas intensity of beef and that of chickens. In part, that's because the energy input needed to raise a cow for slaughter is massive. Indeed, just in the US, roughly 75
What's the percentage transportation sector? Emission percentages. Maybe I can find it like this real quick. Yeah. No, not land, agriculture. This one. This is a better example, because it puts agriculture as a whole. It's not a bad example, it's probably pretty accurate, but this one, industry, electricity and heat. Yeah, electricity and heat is like coal and stuff like this. But yeah, basically you can say transport 14%, probably half of that is, or like 4% of that is probably like planes and flights and stuff like that. So about 10% for the transportation sector. Car doesn't really matter, yes? As long as everything else is still kinda shitty. Still a good thing to change your car, but probably better too. Like on Mustangs.
of cropland is devoted to animal feed.
75% of cropland is devoted to animal feed. As we can see here, agriculture. That's an interesting one, but yeah.
Because for every 100 kilocalories we put into a cow, we only receive 2 kilocalories out. Essentially, we're growing a substantial amount of plants that require a substantial amount of fossil fuels and fossil fuel-derived fertilizer just to put those plants into the bodies of an animal that we'll then kill and eat. Of course, there is an argument to be made that if cows were raised on pasture their whole lives, they won't need the animal feed industry. But grass-fed beef is still a complicated issue. I've made a whole bonus video delving into the effectiveness of grass-fed beef, which you can watch right now on Nebula if you want to learn more. But
I can tell you the fact that even if that was better, it's still not gonna be great. And second of all, only about less than 10% of cows are grass-fed, so this is not a number that we need to concern ourselves with.
The crucial point is this. While there are some types of meat like chicken that have significantly less impact, the reality is that all industrial animal agriculture
Also, thinking about chicken has less impact on our climate. That is true. But also, chicken farms are at fault for most of the recent outbreaks of pandemics and sicknesses. Yes, not COVID in this case, but chicken farms are ruining our antibiotics. Many of our antibiotics have been deemed not useful anymore because we keep feeding them to our chickens. So don't be fooled by the fact that chickens are less worse on our climate.
culture was
Didn't COVID come from the Chinese animal market? It did, but it's not 100% proven. There is no definitive answer on where it's coming from, but it's highly likely. At least last I checked. It's highly likely that it came from some type of animal.
which is just about every steak or chicken breast you grab off the grocery store shelf, has a higher emissions footprint than plant proteins. But the meat industry's direct emissions from methane and animal feed is just the tip of the iceberg. Industrialized animal agriculture also requires a substantial amount of land. The driving forces of capitalism to ever increase the scale, efficiency, and exploitation of inputs in order to squeeze out the most profits has meant the continued conquest of habitable land by the
This is what I don't get. Like, if capitalism is about making the most profit, then just invest in vegan products, because then you can make big profits without wasting lots of power. You can feed all the poor in the poor countries. I'd also profit off of that, have someone else pay for it or something. You can look like a good guy while still being an asshole that makes a lot of profit, you know? Some people are researching into making a meal from one meat, and it would be a lot better. I don't understand. Yes, it would be a lot better, but we can already make amazing soy-based products. There's ways now, or there's ways to be, that is being scientifically looked on to make, what is it called? Meatless meat. I forgot what it's called. Science lab meat, stuff like that. There's many great things that will probably come of this, but I don't know. It's honestly not that hard to be vegan. I know it's a hard mental barrier. Lab-grown, I think you can be lab-grown meat. It's a hard mental barrier to make that step, but in the end, it's really not hard.
Meat and dairy industry. Today, the bleeding edge of animal agriculture's insatiable appetite for land lies in Brazil on the slashed and burned perimeter of the Amazon rainforest. Agriculture occupies almost half of the habitable land on this planet, and of that
46% of the habitable land, guys. Imagine how much space you could have to just chill with your homies if it wasn't everywhere with agriculture and what.
At 46%, grazing lands and lands used to grow animal feed.
Yeah, notice that 77% livestock and 22% stocks. Fuck off.
Take up 77%, and yet only 18% of the global calorie supply comes from
global calorie supply 80% from meat. This is like these three graphics in combination. I've seen that so many times in like different wordings and whatnot. All they kind of stayed the same. This is crazy. I feel like this is what should convince everyone to like go vegan, of how fucking waste it is. Guys, everyone, you guys all play video games and watch my stream. As you play a video game, would you take the fucking item that gives you 1% efficiency, or would you take the item that gives you 100% efficiency? You're not stupid and take 100% efficiency? Okay, great, then go vegan. Easy.
From meat, while 82% comes from plants. Not only is land needed to grow crops to fuel the fattening process at feedlots, but animals need a lot of space to graze during the first 2/3 of their life. In short, meat production requires substantial land input for comparatively little output. And while some land that animals graze on is unsuitable for vegetables and plant proteins, there are still cases like Brazil, the biggest country in South America who is the world's biggest meat exporter. Brazil reveals just how destructive this capitalist meat system can be. Searching for ever more territory to range cattle and grow soybeans, ranchers and farmers have slashed and burned vast swaths of the Brazilian Amazon, especially under
That's so sad. It's so fucking sad. Like the fucking Amazon rainforest, it's like home to such great animals. Home to
former right-wing
like
president Jair Bolsonaro.
The second consecutive month of rising forest destruction under the presidency of Jair Bolsonaro.
A 2019 investigative report revealed that 5,800 square kilometers of forest was being cut down every year in the Amazon and other areas in Brazil to be converted into cattle pasture. Pastures whose cows were bought up by meatpacking giant JBS, slaughtered and shipped off to European and American markets. This deforestation and destruction of habitat in the name of more land for feed and grain.
So just because you're not from the US, don't think that your meat does not come from the rainforest. Even if it comes from whatever fucking area, I don't give a shit. Most of your frozen meat and stuff will most likely also come from Brazil or any type of that. And even if it didn't cut down the rainforest, it probably cut down some local forest close to you or something else like that. So just keep that in mind. So weird, who buys this stuff if everyone only buys local organic meat? So true.
Grazing is happening across the planet. And as I talked about extensively in my last video, this pressure for more land for meat is a significant driver of the sixth mass extinction. We are carving up crucial ecosystems in order to put meat on our plates. To add insult to injury, this extensive habitat destruction has meant that we are increasingly bumping up against wild animals. Animals which can cause pandemics. And when diseases don't make the jump from animals in native ecosystems, contagions can spawn and multiply in the petri dishes of feedlots and slaughterhouses. Epidemics like the bird flu.
Yep, that's what I said earlier. Very important point, guys. If you don't want to die, don't eat meat.
And SARS were born out of the reality of industrial meat factories. Consistent contact with wild and domestic animals has made the chance of another global pandemic that much more likely. So on top of climate change, land use, deforestation, and biodiversity loss, the production of meat under a capitalist system is spawning new diseases that, as COVID has revealed, our world is ill-equipped to tackle. In short, the meat industrial complex has heaped the negative consequences of mechanized animal production onto us.
Also keeping in mind, if it's a bacterial type of disease, we're fucked because our antibiotics are doomed and are permanently being fed to every animal, so they are most likely be immune to those.
In our surroundings, all the while hoarding the benefits for just a select few.
So I guess we were lucky with COVID being infectious type and not in bacteria type.
If we know that the meat industry under capitalism is exploitative and destructive, what then should we do about it? How should we begin to approach
virus type, of course, is what I meant. Sorry, that was stupid.
the massive struggle of dismantling this harmful system? The answer to that question always seems to be going vegan. Without fail, when you talk about the destruction of the meat industry, veganism always comes up as the solution. Indeed, the UN, Project Drawdown, and a whole host of animal advocates.
Now, I stopped eating meat because I learned about the intensive animal agriculture.
And you can make a difference by even once a day or once a week choosing not to eat animals or animal products.
All propose.
Good point by her. You're not sure on going vegan if you're living with your family that maybe cooks for you and it's like cooking meat. If you're not willing to make that step by yourself, try working with like having a vegan day once a week where you don't eat any animal products. Go with that. It's not that hard. And you will see it can still be absolutely delicious. You will still get all the nutrition you need as long as you eat proper meals, of course. And just try it, guys.
Plant-based diets as a significant solution to climate change and environmental degradation. On an individual level, that is certainly true. The research shows that for those who live in the imperial core who are seeking a way to shrink their carbon footprint, adopting a plant-rich diet is one of the most effective actions. That's because, as I mentioned before, growing plants is significantly less emissions and land intensive than raising animals for slaughter. We can see here that even the largest carbon footprint of plant proteins, tofu, is smaller than the smallest.
Yeah, look. Tofu? It's like 1/5 or something, I don't know.
Carbon footprint of meat and dairy products. Indeed, a meta-analysis of over 700 food production systems asserts ruminant meat had impacts 20 to 100 times those of plants, while milk, eggs, pork, poultry, and seafood had impacts 2 to 25 times higher than plants. Study after study has found that eating a plant-based diet lowers your personal carbon footprint. And when considering the range of climate action tactics available to us, going vegan is much easier than welding a pipeline valve shut. It might give agency to those who otherwise feel like they can't change anything about the climate crisis. But veganism has a number of pitfalls that must be addressed. For one, veganism attempts to use consumer-side power to
Yeah, that's an important point. Veganism alone, like consumer side, is never gonna make the difference, but you can still make a difference for yourself and change the direction that companies are going. A water pipeline was shut in the North Sea. Fuck yeah.
influence production side destruction. Veganism, while certainly one of the best things you can do as an individual,
I don't know, I just want to eat when hungry. Then shop vegan and eat vegan. I don't see the issue there.
Still buys into and reinforces the myth of consumer change. Under a capitalist system, transformation doesn't come from the point of consumption, but from the point of production. The owners of our systems of production, the slaughterhouses, the meatpacking plants, and feedlots, have immense control of how many cows are raised or how many chicken tenders are sold, which is why meat production has tripled since the 1970s, despite a significant adoption of plant-based diets. So veganism should be seen as just one tactic in a broader toolkit to dismantle the destruction of animal agriculture. There are so
That's what I meant, like meat is not obligatory. Yeah, just keep in mind, you just want to eat, right? Like that's a basic human right. And I assume you would want that for everyone in the world, right? Just also keep in mind that people that do eat meat, make sure reduce the chances of people in poorer countries to be able to eat too. So if you believe that everyone should have the right of being able to eat, going vegan would help those people in poor countries also being able to eat.
So many other tactics out there that might even have more of an impact than eating a solely plant-based diet. And yet a vegan diet always seems to be held up as the solution. In a way,
like the thing is, no, it's not held up as the solution. A vegan diet fixes my own footprint and only my own footprint and those that I have an impact on. But the meat industry has way too much power and impact, and that even if enough people would go vegan, they would still find ways to undo that. There needs to be a political change in that regard for the long term, for these things to work out.
This feels eerily similar to the carbon footprint shaming campaign enacted by British Petroleum.
What size is your carbon footprint?
Much in the same way fossil fuel emissions have become our individual problem, the meat industry's disastrous impact has to be somehow solved with our dietary decisions. As Matt Huber writes in Climate Change is Class War, under neoliberal capitalism, individual behavioral change sometimes appears to be the only meaningful option to do something about climate change. So while projections like this one that propose that if everyone adopted a plant-based diet, we could offset 68.
Yeah, of course we could, technically, yes, blah, blah, blah. There needs to be a change globally. This is not saying, listen, you guys should all go vegan because you don't want animals to die. Everyone that doesn't want animals to die and tortured to go vegan. That should be your motivation, personally, because you don't want to be part in harming animals. The emission part is very important too. Yes, the meat industry is the main part of the global emissions and the dairy industry too. But your individual choice is not gonna change this part, but it's gonna change your part in participation of matter. I hope I brought that across well.
8% of carbon emissions this century are extremely enticing, we need to be careful how we interpret that information. Everyone in the world will not just voluntarily take up a plant-based diet. Because despite the increasing popularization of meatless eating, the meat industry has a strong control of food production in the United States. Even plant-based alternatives like Beyond Meat, Impossible Burgers, and now Tyson's own plant-based line are still wrapped up and consumed by capitalist processes. They're patented and controlled not by the people democratically, but by just a few CEOs and investors who are often the same ones in the meat industry, who are looking to profit off shifting diets. Not only that, but pushes for global veganism can be colored, perhaps unconsciously, by imperialist tendencies. As Max Eil writes in A People's Green New Deal, claiming that a meatless society is a good thing creates an immediate moral justification for doing things to stop people, especially pastoralists in the third world, from ceasing to raise or eat meat. What Eil is keying into here is that we must avoid a top-down approach to a vegan society, one where the imperial core's guilt over exploitative meat industrialism turns into backlash against peasant ranchers in the imperial periphery.
Yep, that's also true. Which is probably all not possible under capitalism, just saying. Beyond Meat is like the worst meat alternative on the market though. It doesn't taste like meat or vegetables. It's in its own category of bad taste and think you think so? I don't know, I had Beyond Meat. I thought it was pretty good.
Struggle must be taken to the Tysons and Cargill.
But that's the thing, right? Like it's each opinions and it's like important to try things out.
Of the world, not those raising cows just to put food on the table. Because for many, there are also a number of cultural barriers to going vegan. Whether it's your grandma's famous turkey pot pie, the cattle ranged for subsistence, or the salmon your people have been fishing for hundreds of generations, meat can hold spiritual and communal significance. Plant-based.
Yes, that is true, but change is, as Kazakhs from League of Legends would say.
Diets, especially veganism, leave little room for those emotionally important meals. Because veganism, at its core, is a restrictive diet. One which, if we're not careful, might exacerbate already present disordered eating or give rise to it. In part, this is
Oh, this is pretty far-fetched. I think that can be the same thing for fucking meat eating. I don't get this part.
Because it can often feel that if you take even just one bite of meat, you're immediately shamed as a bad vegan. And when
Yes, because you're not a vegan if you want to take a bite of meat. That's the point, right? If you think about, like, if if it seems like a good choice to take a bite of meat, then your morals do not veganism is an ethical stance. I do not want animals to be harmed. It's not a diet. Being vegan is an ethical stance of not harming animals or having done any harm to animals, participating in harming animals. So, if you think about taking a bite of chicken or whatever, yes, you are a bad vegan because you're probably wearing the veganism in the first place, but I have never heard of a vegan that thought of eating meat of any sort. I don't think those really exist. I mean, I did know a person that was allergic to nearly everything in the face of the earth, so doubt they could not eat meat. A lot of grains were out for them. I doubt it. There's gotta be a solution. 100%. Then there's no way that they can be allergic to everything but meat, right? Then you just kind of die. Even if you're allergic to grains, so if you're allergic to wheat, if you're allergic to soy, there's still stuff like coconut, there's still stuff like rice, there's stuff like corn. All these are able to make a base. There's, of course, all the vegetables, ton of different ones. I don't see this. I don't like vegan options that imitates meat. I don't like meat anymore. I see. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that,
You
right?
consider that meat is ever present, especially in the US, in our stores, our restaurants, and even our clothes. It can be taxing.
Okay, the important point is, the imitations of meat is basically only to make an easy transition phase. Never eat raw rice though? Always cook it? But is eating raw rice unhealthy? Is eating raw rice unhealthy? Raw uncooked rice is not safe to eat. Interesting. I didn't know that, to be honest. But who eats raw rice? So I guess it doesn't really matter anyway.
Both financially and mentally to find alternatives. All this is not to say that you shouldn't go vegan. Indeed, embracing a plant-based diet can be a great first step in acquiring agency under the meat industrial complex. But it is to say that embracing a plant-based diet can be extremely hard in a meat-centric world. Vegan activists are
I don't know. It's really not that hard, I don't think. Also, all the vitamin stuff is really easy. Go vegan for a year, go to your fucking doctor, make a blood test, see if you're right. And I can tell you there's a 99.9% chance you're right as long as you didn't eat one thing over and over. And there's even a high chance that you're off better than before, and especially on the cholesterol, stuff like that.
Ed argues that the problem is not the restrictiveness of the vegan diet, but instead he argues that we should be focusing on
making vegan food more accessible and convenient and tasty and affordable. And we should make sure that being vegan is a socially acceptable and normal thing to do so people don't feel isolated within their social groups.
But in order to
That is very true. I agree with
To do that, veganism needs to be seen as just one small step. Because to forge a plant-based system and dismantle the meat industry, we need to tear down the very scaffolding of the system itself. Those support pillars that make a plant-based meal much more difficult to cook up. All across the planet, more people are embracing plant-rich diets, whether for perceived nutritional benefits, ethical or environmental reasons.
Being a first world country makes being vegan so easy. Yes, sorry. All those points were for first world country. Especially in Europe. All of Europe. It's very easy. Give it a shot. If you're in Europe, if you're in the US or Canada, it's also really easy. Don't tell me otherwise. I checked your walnut websites. I know it's easy.
Animal-free diets seem to be growing in popularity. And yet, meat corporations continue to have a stranglehold over animal production. Profits and accumulation are still valued over environment, animals, and people. Meat production is still climbing. So we need a holistic approach to our food system. We need
Yes, definitely we do. I agree with
tactics
that.
beyond individual dietary choices to stop the destruction of the meat industry. Ones that unravel the tightly wound ties between capitalist extraction and animal production. This could look like immediate harm reduction strategies like stronger slaughterhouse oversight, increased antitrust pressure to break up global meat monopolies, and taxing meatpacking companies for their emissions and waste. But these are ultimately solutions couched in our current.
You've never had tofu? Where were you from again? You not either? Tofu Argentina. Prize. Think I ate tofu once? What the fuck, guys? Even way before I was vegan, I had a shit ton of tofu. What is this? This doesn't show me prices. Oh my god, what is this bullshit? Help! Okay, I can't find this right now. By Argentina, let's go. Look. Oh my god, what's the price? Fuck off, whatever. I'm not the one doing the groceries, I just eat what I'm told to. The fuck? I would have never been okay with something like that. I've never looked for it, but also never saw it. I've eaten raw garlic and raw carrots before. Nothing wrong with that.
System. They're imperfect forms of pressure that alleviate just a bit of the harm of the meat industry during the struggle for a more plant-based world. And crucially, that struggle must involve the ranchers, the pastoralists, and the animal farmers producing meat. We must get down in the dirt and actually help these workers transition away from the tight grip of the meat industry. And this
Very important, yes. I think so too.
This is exactly what Transformation is trying to do with farmers like Mike Weaver, who raised chickens for years and, recognizing the heavy yoke of exploitative meat corporations, has successfully transitioned his operation to carbon-negative hemp farming, a crop that could potentially be a cornerstone for a zero-carbon economy. Weaver's farm represents what a transition to a plant-based
Hemp is actually so good. Hemp seeds are so amazing.
world might look like, ripping away one node of production from the animal industry. Because the reality is that those closest to meat production have the most power. The slaughterhouse workers who risk life and limb every day, the chicken farmers paid dismally for their work, and cattle ranchers are all key agents of change under capitalist animal production. If just 4 meatpacking companies have immense power, that means that the workers within those companies have even greater power to dismantle their stranglehold over food. That means we need to build solidarity and coalitions across the meat and dairy supply chain.
Like, the thing is, I can't say that this solution is wrong, but it's just not gonna happen under capitalism, right? Because they can just be like, hey, here, politics, here, can get another 100k donation. Oh, wait, you wanna do something against us? Here, another 100k donation. Oh, wait, another 100k donation. Oh, wait, another 100k donation. Oh, wait, this time 1 million. Oh, wait, 80 million sounds good this time. Alright, here you go, 80 million to your political company. Please make sure this doesn't happen.
Because the only way to dismantle the global monopoly
It sucks when your family isn't that supportive of stuff like that, and blessed have a mom that does her best to get me the food I want. Yeah, that seems important. Thank you for the hat pat.
of animal production is to attack it from all sides. From the food we put on our plates, to strikes, to walkouts, all together can bring slaughterhouses to a standstill. Ultimately, going vegan is just one small step in a greater struggle.
Well, if it's more expensive to be vegan, creep back. Walmart. $2.97 for 350 grams of tofu. $14 for 4 chicken breasts. 1.42 per 100 gram. It was 350 gram. So 142 times 3.5 is $5 for chicken for the same amount, for less proteins. Everyone always says that. Don't compare it to the maple leaf chicken. Then what do I compare it to? Because I just took the first tofu and the first chicken that I found. What if I type vegan in here and we check for some vegan alternatives? Food. Wait, this is why I only like add stuff. Oh my god, I'm not talking about fucking supplements. I mean like anything. Just find some ground beef. Ground beef? Ground beef is super expensive. It's a poor people's food here. It's still more expensive. Even this one is more expensive. Even this one is more expensive. Even this one is more expensive. Let's do low to high. Soy granulate. Soy granulate. But I can't find soy granulate. Ah yeah, this is $1 per 100 grams. But this is tofu again, not granulate. What is soy granulate? It's basically, I can show you a picture and I can explain it. Images. It's like this. And if you mix it with a little bit of water, it's gonna be like ground beef. Or you can mix it with stock instead to be slightly different taste. Yeah. Right, Coleman. Good night. But yes, ground beef. Granules. Soy granules. Thank you for the pin. Beef gravy? Maybe I just leave away the soy. This is weird. But yes, whatever. The cheapest... Oh wait, I didn't even check for the cheapest tofu. Let's just type tofu and then go from price low to high. And see, just as an example basically. Let's... if it ever loads this year. Hello? Okay, I'm sick of this website. But we already saw cheapest soy, or like the first soy I found was cheaper than the cheapest beef.
That must end at the point of production. Only when we've wrested control of the very food we eat away from those hungry for profits and place it in the decision-making of the people, can we then begin a just transition away from the harmful impact of meat. A transition that must grapple with the ranchers and pastoralists raising their animals not in feedlots but on grassy pasture. Because recently there has been a rise in the number of advocates who claim that animals raised on pasture their whole life not only produce fewer emissions but actually can help the soil sequester more carbon than cows emit. Some arguments are dubious and some seem credible. So in order to get to the bottom of this, I made a whole extra video about
Sorry, but this is not gonna be dubious incredible. This is
grass-fed
gonna be
beef
absolute
that you can
bullshit.
only find on the creator-owned streaming service Nebula. The fog of war in the grass-fed beef debate is thick with contradictory evidence. There, you can watch my upcoming video a month early, 25 bonus and extended OCC videos, alongside a ton of other exclusive content from creators like Second Thought, Not Just Bikes, and Real Life Lore. I've recently been learning a lot about the rise of fascism in Second Thought's Nebula original series F is for Fascism,
and how fascism so effectively became the way of life for an entire country.
And I also highly recommend watching the beautifully produced hour-and-a-half documentary about the growing water crisis surrounding the Colorado River.
Maybe I shouldn't watch all the advertising, but this was a really good video. I really enjoyed that. I appreciate you guys watching. And thank you so much, Our Changing Climate, for the video on veganism.